Greetings to everyone, to all the active participants of the Hello Pixel project, especially to those involved with Pixel Valet. First of all, I'd like to apologize on behalf of the team that, well, we ended up delaying this session a bit. We were preparing an update, but the team had some unexpected circumstances. However, I sincerely hope that today we'll be able to answer just most of your questions. And so, I suggest we get right to the hot topic. Let's commence with the most interesting thing that's been on everyone's mind lately. That's the question about Swisstronic. Our technical director will be answering this one. Yes, Alexander, also known as Crypto Ninja. So, the first question, how are things going with the Swisstronic team? What's happening with their listing? And will this affect the distribution of the promised NFT? When exactly is the token claim scheduled to happen? So, as usual,
Let's go step by step.
exact dates. Yes. Step by step.
All right, so regarding the TG, well, it actually happened. As for the listing, again, according to the team, they're working on it. So the team is working and they're preparing the listing. In fact, some fund has joined them. I don't remember off the top of my head which one, but they did write about it. So overall, it seems like everything's fine with them. As for the dates, well, it's a tricky situation, considering that the first TG date was supposed to be August 2024. In the end, when did it actually happen? In March 2025. So that's why we don't really have that kind of information right now. And honestly, I don't think they know either, just like most projects in crypto. Now, about the NFT. There's a chance that today the NFT distribution was launched, which means the process of sending out these digital tokens to eligible participants may have started. So everyone who registered for this event should expect to receive their NFT soon, as long as they completed the registration steps correctly. Please keep an eye out for your NFT if you signed up. I hope so. I mean, Max was supposed to launch it. And I think that today or tomorrow, everyone will see these NFTs. A couple of words about the NFCs. Basically, everything that was promised will indeed be included in these NFCs, except for what we didn't specifically promise. That's the transaction fee, meaning the cost involved in the process. But from what it seems, it's actually pretty insignificant overall. And honestly, the average or above average player probably won't even notice it. That's everything regarding the NFCs. Was there more on this Swisstronic Misha?
Yes, in general, probably not. So, we'll get the item in the next few days, basically by the end of the week, right? What day is it today? Thursday? Yeah, I think by the end of the week.
Yeah. The items are completely ready. That is, if we press the distribution button, they should have already arrived to someone. If we didn't press it, then we'll press it today. So basically,
Everything's set up. We need to distribute.
if there are any questions, understandable ones, from the people who came for Swisstronic, you can just write in the chat right away so that we can, well, like if Misha, for example, missed something.
I just logged into Pixel Valet to check if anything has come through or not. I'm getting errors there right now. Apparently, there are some technical issues going on at the moment. So because of these technical issues, we should plan for the end of the week to be safe.
All right, so what's next?
So, I suggest we move on to discuss the new mechanic. We had a big patch, the launch of the long-awaited syndicates. Basically, this is the first iteration of syndicates, the first use of pixel dust, also known as dust. What other functions will Dust have? And what's actually the point of leveling up a syndicate? What will the syndicate itself and its members get out of it? Because, well, a lot of syndicates are just waiting for the AMA session and trying to figure out if there's even any point in investing Pixel Dust into syndicates at all. And again, what is it actually for? Because in previous AMA sessions we discussed preliminary mechanics, but as I understand it, the final mechanics for the development of syndicates in the upcoming iterations have now been approved. As I understand it, the next iteration will involve lands. How is all of this going to look? And how will everything interact with each other? How do these garden points affect things as well? For example, when joining. Honestly, there are still a lot of questions for now.
Let's go step by step. So we don't miss anything and don't mix everything up together.
Sorry, Alexander. I'm just afraid I'll ask a question and then someone will say, "You missed such an important question." I think I'll just ask everything now, and then later I'll tell the guys. I asked, but they didn't answer. So, it's kind of not my problem anymore. All right, I'm just kidding, of course. I think, in any case, we'll try to find out everything now, and at the end of the session, as usual, we'll give our active users a chance to ask the questions that don't get covered or that only concern them or maybe their syndicate, for example. Because today, roughly speaking, starting from today, or actually, since the last patch, some of our users can officially speak on behalf of their small community. Many people already have their own syndicate. Let's continue.
Okay. So here's how it is. About Dust. You can use Dust to level up your syndicate, and you'll also be able to buy land with Dust. There will be a lot of different districts there, by the way. And naturally, the prices will vary. And moving forward, in the next cycles, clan Dust will also play a role. Plus, Dust will basically become a clan currency. In other words, a currency between clans. So, after a while, we'll create a contract that will package Dust into chests. Well, Dust into deeds, into chests. Like, probably in chests. Yeah, meaning with a specific denomination. That's it. And, accordingly, Dust can be traded on the market without any hassle.
Well, chests, scrolls, call them whatever you want. Basically, some kind of wrapped state in the form of an NFT, as I understand it, and trading will be possible on our marketplace. Is that right?
Excuse me, just a minute. I need to step away for literally 1 minute.
Okay, we'll wait. Alex. Can I ask a couple of quick questions now, if you don't mind?
Proceed.
Will there be an achievement for crafting climbers? Because right now, all burned NFTs aren't tracked anywhere. Just a quick yes or no. While we're waiting for Alexander.
I think it's actually planned,
I think so, yes. Okay.
Hold on, let me double check. We asked Game Design about this today. I think he replied that there will be.
Yes, achievements will be added for syndicate development, considering each member's role and contributions. For example, the head of a profession.
Yes, apologies. So, where did we leave off in our story now?
Question, will achievements be introduced for syndicate development, taking into account the contributions of members depending on their role or position in the syndicate?
Still not now.
Yeah, right. Eventually, we'll do syndicate achievements.
By the way, I suggest we wrap up this current topic now and then answer the guys' questions live. before we get too far off track so we don't end up with a big pile of small questions later, I would tell you,
Let's try to ask questions step by step. Yeah,
it probably makes sense to break it down into phases and ask questions that way. Sasha will answer, people raise their hands, and we respond to the questions that were asked. Then we move on.
okay, then I don't remember who raised their hand first, so now we'll give the floor to Stanislav. I don't know if I did or not.
I saw Stanislav and I see Pasha's chat.
I'm trying to give the floor, but something's stopping me.
Stanislav is in here now.
Maybe there's some money in the card. I tried to give him the floor, but it's not working for me. All right, then I suggest we move on. Alexander, we left off talking about spending dust on upgrades and buying land.
Upgrades buying land, the clan cycle.
Is there any information yet about the cost of land? And besides dust, will it be possible to buy it with anything else?
Well, regarding how much the land will cost. As far as I remember, from what I can recall, I think, honestly, the simplest land in the most basic area generally tends to cost about 6 dust. And then, of course, depending on the area, the price will go up. I have the balance right in front of me right now.
Well, roughly speaking, 6 dust is even easily.
That's basically an attempt. It's basically an attempt to roll. Yeah. So, the land will have a roll. That is, you buy a basic plot for yourself, and then you roll that plot. So, the further you roll, the more expensive it gets. So, roughly speaking, for 5 or 6 dust, you can get one plot, and from it you might get some random result. Basically, it works the same way as with all our chests, and so on, right? So, the better the plot, meaning the more prestigious it is, the higher your chances of getting legendary land. Something like that. What can you use to buy them? Well, SGB will also be accepted. And, basically, I think that's it.
So in the first iteration, yes, it will be SGB and dust. Maybe by the presale we'll add the option to buy with USDT. But most likely, the first biome and the first regions will be sold for dust and SGB.
All right, that answers the question. The next question is about peaceful lands. A significant portion of syndicates aren't hostile, and they started asking, like, up to what level can you upgrade a syndicate for it to still be considered peaceful? So this.
Let me answer that, Sasha. Look, dies, any kind of aggressive interaction, like raids, attacking each other, takeovers, or blockades, is actually planned, I think, even on the roadmap for the end of the year. So, at best, these mechanics will appear in about 6 months. And the level of your clan doesn't affect whether you can participate or not. Here, most likely, what will matter is the depth of the biome. As far as I remember from the balance, the first 2 biomes are not planned to allow attacks on them. That's actually the value of the first 2 biomes. You'll be able to regularly gather resources there without worrying that someone will take them from you. Is that right, Sasha?
Something like that. So, the raid mechanics and any kind of PvP, let's call it that, won't appear until after we implement clans. And there are 3 iterations planned for clans. So right now, you've seen the first one. And now, we're actually finishing up the second one. And, actually, the second iteration will be more interesting. There will be functional buildings and so on. So, you'll be able to start gathering resources there. And in the third iteration, you can process those resources.
So, will the lands themselves appear earlier? Does that mean the lands show up before the second iteration? Between the first and second iteration, something like that. All right. So, since our syndicate is addressing 2 main issues, the social aspect, and the pixel processing issue in the second, current stage. Could you tell us a bit more about pixel processing? How is all of this going to look? What will be the pixel processing ratio? What kind of conditions can we expect? Roughly, what should we be aiming for? And how will, for example, the syndicate's level affect this? Is there even any point in leveling it up? Because we haven't discussed this question yet, right?
Regarding processing, I'll also try to explain it as simply as possible so that everyone can understand. So, here's how it works. The second iteration comes out, and that's when construction begins. You build and extract resources. Then, in the third iteration, you spend those resources on processing, that is, on a processing building inside which the pixel will actually be processed. The ratio between, let's say, a pixel shard and a main pixel will depend on, well, a lot of different factors. First, it's about the upgrades themselves, right? That is, which buildings you have, which workers, how well you manage to complete the cycle, things like that. So, basically, it will depend entirely on the NFT pack. Yeah, exactly, because the principle, well, it stays the same moving forward. For example, if you assign a worker and it's a common worker, they process only a small amount. If you have a legendary worker, they process much more. And so on. The better the building, the more pixel you end up getting. The worse the building, the fewer pixels you get. That's it. Plus, you have to understand that this will also depend on the final liquidity. Yeah, so all this processing. Well, something like that.
Another question about the syndicate. Two quick questions. Is it possible to get any kind of compensation if, for some reason, you leave the clan or the syndicate leader kicks you out, but you've already invested SGB or dust there? That's the first question. The second question, is it possible to sell a syndicate? Well, technically it's possible just to transfer the position, say, of the syndicate leader from one member to another. The question is, would that be legal? So, this question is basically, let's say I have a syndicate and I want to sell it. Would that be legal?
Misha, let's ask the questions one at a time now, because you just switched to selling the syndicate, and I'm like, wait, what was the question you asked before selling the syndicate?
Yeah, let's split them up. I'm just getting lost.
So, the first question. About what exactly?
The possibility of getting compensation automatically when?
Actually, I was joking. I asked the questions. I have enough RAM.
Look, guys, sorry.
But Oleg doesn't have enough. All his RAM is being used up, you know, fighting the virus. So, about the compensation. Look, everything that happens within the clan in terms of interaction is entirely left up to the social aspect, right? So, in many, let's say, modern games that involve having a clan and leveling it up, any kind of interaction with players, basically, you can freely kick a player out if there's some reason, right? So here, for now, it's just recommendations at this stage. So, as things develop, if there are any interesting ideas, requests, or suggestions from the community and so on, we're open to considering them. That's it. But basically, you really need to think about where you're joining and what you're contributing there. Right? I mean, if you join the clan just for the sake of joining, well, that's one thing. If you join a clan with people you know, at least from chatting with them, that's a different story. If you joined a clan with people you know in real life, people you actually know personally, that's yet another story. So here, I think it really depends on each person's playstyle when they join a clan. Obviously, there aren't many features in clans right now, so it's kind of unclear how things work there. So when construction starts and all that stuff with resource gathering, even in the second iteration, then it'll become clear, like who's contributing what to the clan, how they interact, what lands they have, whether they collect on time, basically what value they bring, right? So, based on that, well, the composition, or really, the makeup of the clan, for people who aren't familiar with each other, for example, it'll happen, I think, kind of through natural selection. I don't know if I answered. I went on a tangent.
Well, I think the answer was given. Basically, interaction within syndicates only concerns the interaction within those syndicates. The team isn't responsible for that. That's already.
But here I want to add an important point, actually, that when we get to the point where a clan is basically a smart contract, right, like a DAO that's managed by the people inside the clan, based on their own power, and so on and so forth. So, of course, there will be more and more tools available to prevent you from just getting kicked out. In other words, the more the clan or syndicate becomes a financial entity, the more mechanisms there will be, I think, that will help with this. We've thought about this, but for now, while everything is still at this stage, of course, it's just not a priority at all. Honestly, it's just not the time for that.
Let me add something in advance here.
How much?
Once we finish developing all the functionality for clans, syndicates, lands, corporations, and so on, after that we'll move it to the blockchain.
On our back end.
Yeah, once we've tested all the mechanics. Some stages took longer because we built features directly on the blockchain. But if you develop a feature on the back end, test it, then rebuild it on the blockchain, it speeds up development 30 to 40%.
As far as I remember, we even had plans for regular automatic re-election of the leader. But that's something for the future. It's still just a plan for now, right?
Yeah.
I suggest we smoothly move on to the question about boosts. Actually, there are two questions.
You forgot the second question.
Sorry, well, the second question is about selling, right? How is that?
Selling too.
Is it legal for the team?
You can sell clans to each other. The easiest way to do this is to reach out to someone like Nezneka or Mikhail. You can also get top players like Kirilka and Ed, who can act as guarantors during the sale.
Wow.
So from a technical standpoint, yes, from a technical standpoint, this won't happen anytime soon. So when you'll be able to set this up, basically, when the clan becomes a smart contract, once that happens, then you can do it without a guarantor.
Alexander, look, once it's a smart contract, you won't need a guarantor, but for now, use one. Transferring the leader role takes about 30 seconds. Now you need a guarantor so you don't end up posting later that you got scammed. Or wait for the technical solution. Let's move to the next question about boosts. It's a bit of an opposite, double question, but since it's the same topic, I'll ask the parts together. The first question is, does the team have any plans for a mechanic, for example, recycling unwanted boosts? Because, for instance, common boosts are flooding the market in large quantities, filling up the marketplace at low prices, and causing a price dump for commons.
Wait for crafting coming soon.
A lot of people don't even bother listing them. So, there's a suggestion to recycle them into pixel dust. For example, since pixel dust is in demand, you could set a small exchange rate, but at least people could get something right away. Alright, if we have to wait, then in which iteration might this happen? For example, after lands or after buildings, or is there no answer to that yet?
Wait for launch of the Clan Forge.
Got it, through the Clan Forge, okay.
You know, guys, I'll be honest, when it comes to questions like when will this or that happen, I personally hesitate to give you a straight answer, because there are some people in the community who love to remind us of every single word we've ever said. So it's getting a bit harder to be specific. By the way, your behavior leads to this. When you hurry to get a feature out faster, people remember they tag you. It's an unpleasant situation. When we start developing the planned forge, this mechanic will appear.
Let's leave that nuance to everyone's own conscience. And here's a follow-up question. Now so when will there be boosts in the Scale network? Some people already had enough of them in Swistronic, thanks. But in Scale, people want them.
Well, maybe there won't be any, at all.
All right, that's interesting. It's nice to have a place to just relax.
Yeah.
And a more predictable, really, pool drain, too. Then the next question is about the pool in the Scale network. What will happen?
Adding Phoenicia. You need to understand that on Songbird, we're now mining shards, which will be converted differently at various stages of the project's development. And everything we mine before the end will all be converted one-to-one. So it turns out that the pool remaining in Scale is now the only, and possibly the very last, pool that can be mined one-to-one for pixels.
Yeah, that's an important reminder. That's probably why questions about Scale have come up more often. In previous AMAs, people weren't that interested in this network, but now there's renewed interest. So the question is, what will happen when the pool allocated in the Scale network runs out? The first phase will end, and then it will be like in the second phase. Maybe pixel dust will appear there too, or there might be some other ideas. Or maybe this question is still open for now.
As we mentioned earlier, Scale is aimed at other projects, and nothing has changed in that regard. The only thing that has changed a bit is our development priorities. In other words, we've shifted our focus toward gamification. Remember, we had a slightly different plan before, but we decided to make it so that before the TGE, the currently mined pixel can already be converted directly into liquid tokens, USDT, SGB, and possibly something else. That means you can go and immediately sell it on the market, earning real money. That's why our current priority is gamification. So in Scale, it's very likely there won't be any boosts, no acceleration, and no pixel dust. Not certain.
The Scale network will keep running and no one plans to abandon it. It's just waiting for its moment to shine. But anyway, they'll come up with some kind of mechanics for it after the pool ends, right?
Yes.
By the way, Scale is actually pretty active right now. I mean, they've got a lot of different things going on internally. But we're just, let's say, keeping an eye on what's going on. And we had a conversation with them about the pool. By the way, it's open, right, Oleg, if I remember correctly?
Yes, you need to set up a meeting with them.
Right. How should I put it? Well, kind of missed that moment a bit. So we had a conversation with Scale about them giving us some Scale tokens for the pool, so the community could do some mining. They were actually open to the idea, let's say, and were willing to keep the conversation going. But then we got really busy with work, and it kind of slipped away. So we probably need to bring this topic up again, especially now that there's some activity starting up in Scale. Maybe they'll put something into our pool, and we'll be able to mine some Scale tokens. Well, that's just by the way, right? So in any case, if the story happens, and we manage to secure some kind of community grant, right, since we've basically been active there for a long time already, then maybe we'll come up with something interesting for it. Some kind of activity, to, let's say, boost things there. Overall, to stir up some activity, some movement in the network.
Yeah.
Before the last question, before the very last one, yeah, because I'm almost out of questions myself. I want to ask our audience to get their personal questions ready so we don't have to wait too long. In the meantime, I'll ask, Oleg, I'll ask you, Oleg, a question about our token, the community token Pixarmy. What's its current status? What are the growth prospects? Will there be any additional rewards, for example, for early holders? Right? Maybe in that regard.
Let's start here, guys. Launching the Pixar token was actually the first launch for the Pixel team. Even though we brought in, not exactly to the team, but as a partner for the token launch, another person who had previous experience with launches. And honestly, we really messed up in a lot of areas here, from technical aspects to marketing. The whole structure was basically set up incorrectly. Let me say it again. For us, for the Pixel team, this was our first experience. Yeah. One of our mistakes was listening to our marketer who said we get a lot of hype just from using the word Pixar from Disney. We didn't get any hype from using the word Pixar. Instead, it brought us a ton of problems. Pretty much all the services, like CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, and even Solscan, the Solana Explorer itself, rejected us. On top of that, as of now, I know that we're actually blocked by Solscan. Basically, they were like, well, the branding showed up, so goodbye. Right now, we're working on resolving this issue, but it's taking a bit longer than expected. Through some market maker contacts, I managed to reach out to them, and they confirmed that we're blocked. We're waiting for a response on how to get rid of this block, so we can finally get verified. And now, that little yellow triangle with the exclamation mark has disappeared from Pixar. All these issues can be resolved, but unfortunately, they take time, especially when it comes to CoinMarketCap. They're a big company, probably the biggest in the market, and they're really slow. If you're not paying for priority, their responses take a really long time, about 3 to 5 days for each reply. Right now, we understand that the whole process takes about 45 business days, although before we used to say 30. But my friends are telling me that, since we've now been flagged as Pixar on all three platforms, CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, and Solscan, we've been marked as the Pixar Disney brand. That's bad. Again, it's not our fault. Well, okay, maybe it is our fault. So, this is going to take some time. It's probably been a week or two since we started working in this direction. We've already changed the token ticker name. Now it's called Pixarmy. Pixel Army just became the name of the token. Now we just have to get through this annoying phase with all the checks and verifications. I've already sent the company documents to CoinMarketCap, and I sent my personal documents there as well. We made an additional post, so basically, we just have to tough it out for a bit. This is exactly where we really messed up. To everyone who got into the token right away, I apologize to you. We'll make it right. We'll keep growing. Now, about our further development. So, we have several processes going on in parallel. One of these processes is creating our own market maker bot. At first, we tried to bring in some big players for this. They refused to work with us because of the token's commission. That was the first issue. The second issue is the lack of technical implementation for Meteor V2. Meteor V2 is the second area where we really messed up. So, following our marketer's advice, we also decided to move toward a new platform to launch a new pool and partner with them. It turned out that those guys were completely unprepared. Their setup was extremely raw, and they weren't ready for anything. Meteor herself is Indian. Not that I have anything against Indians. They're great people, but they're very slow when it comes to understanding and actually getting things done. So verbally it's all yes, 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 it'll be ready tomorrow. But in reality, it takes months. Unfortunately, I hadn't worked with Indians before, so I didn't know things could turn out like this. So Meteor says it will be tomorrow. A week goes by. And as you can see in the screenshot, we finally got listed. Their promise of 2 days ended up stretching into 2 or even 3 weeks. So guys, sorry, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, just a second. I really need to take this phone call urgently. I apologize. This will be quick.
Okay, that's fine. In the meantime, I'll ask Alexander a question about how the number of lands will affect. What will the number of lands affect? What's the maximum number of lands you can buy? Will the land belong to the user or to the syndicate?
Okay, wait, hold on. So what will the number of lands affect? Basically, it's the number of buildings you can have on the land, right? So one land means one resource building, and there are several resources. So at the very least, if you want to collect resources for a processing cycle, how many do you need? 6? Having 6 plots, that's the minimum. Here,
Are there 6 buildings?
yeah, something like that. 6 lands, 6 different resource buildings. Right. Of course, you could just mine, say, only grain or only steel. That's possible too, but then you'll have to find the other resources somewhere else. So, if you want a full production cycle, then you need those 6 buildings. And so on, yeah. So the point is that, there's this concept, what do we call it in the subject? Yeah, so, the extraction cycle, right. And so there's a cooldown, right? So you keep extracting. Boom, that's it, you've run out. So then you go into,
It's like a cooldown there.
yeah. So you go into cooldown, into a recharge period. That's it, your land and the building on it basically stop working. So basically, you've temporarily lost your source of extraction. But if you have a second piece of land, then everything's great, right? So you haven't lost out. That's how it works when it comes to the number of land. Next. What was next again? Second question.
The lands belong to the user.
That's third one.
Or, well, during the process, either to the user or to the syndicate. So does that mean we can't acquire land without a syndicate? Or how does it work? I'm just trying to get a feel for the mechanics here, between the land and the syndicate.
Here's how it is. The land belongs to the user. So the syndicate doesn't own any land. At the same time, if a user has land but isn't in a syndicate, there's nothing they can do with it except sell it on the marketplace. Yeah, so you can buy land, but the ability to build on it is only available within a syndicate on that land. So basically, the most you can do with it is just resell it on the market if you're not part of a clan. In order to be able to build something on your land, you need to join a clan. So, accordingly, you could also lease your land to a clan and, in return, receive so-called activity points or SAPs. Then, based on the number of SAPs you have, when we get to the earnings distribution cycle within the clan, the distribution will actually be done according to these points. So, you accumulate a certain number of SAPs, and at the end of the season, your share of the loot is distributed based on how many SAPs you earned. For example, if you leased 50 plots of land to the clan, you earned a lot of SAPs because they immediately filled them with buildings. So that's basically it. So yes, the user owns it, and you have the ability to develop your land within the clan, but the real estate itself moves from player to player. In other words, for now, the clan doesn't actually own any real estate. But again, all of this is just until we finish.
It feels like we should be raising our hands and answering questions here. It's a tricky point.
Even I don't fully get it yet.
Yeah,
So we
complicated issue.
basically place the land within the boundaries of a so-called syndicate. Anyone can build on it, and anyone can use it, well, as long as they're a member of the syndicate, right? Well, depending on the hierarchy, yeah. So, if you have a person who's responsible for the buildings on the clan's plots, the ones that users rent out to the clan, then that person is the one who builds. If everyone has those rights, then everyone can build. But most likely, not everyone will have those rights. That's where the syndicate positions will take on new meaning. That's right.
For us, it's builder, leader, deputy, right? They can build, correct? Well, we don't know for sure yet, but maybe you do.
I asked Sasha or Vitalik if he's here. Like a secret shadow.
I think we'll discuss this question more thoroughly once we have the land. I suggest we give the floor to our know-nothing. Andre, I've given you the floor. Go ahead.
You know what I wanted to ask? Hey, everyone! What if there's already a building on the land? Can you sell it? Take it away? How does that work? What happens to the building?
The building goes to the clan, since it's built by the clan with clan funds.
So you can take the land out and sell it, right? No problem?
Yes. So your building goes to the clan's base, and then you can place it on any available land that meets the requirements for that building.
Oh, got it. That's great then.
And the worker who lives in that building stays with it as well. Our workers are temporary, just like the drones, right? So, for example, you have a piece of land, you take a worker. And here, by the way, I also want to emphasize, because people often ask about NFTs, like is it an NFT or not an NFT? All NFTs will be involved in the future, as I've already mentioned, in upcoming content. So workers, all of that will be created through crafting.
So, should I finish talking about Pixar? Pixar.
Go ahead.
Guys, let's admit once again that we messed up because of our inexperience.
We left off at the meteor, right?
Yes, we left off at the meteor. So, there were a number of mistakes we made as a team that didn't really understand, didn't double check, and didn't dig deep enough into the issue. We have to sort out all these situations on the fly. On the bright side, we're developing our own market maker bot, since the big players can't get involved here for various reasons, and besides, they want a salary of $20,000 a month. So, for a market maker to come work with us, they want $20,000 a month. So, for the same amount of money, we're developing our own bot that will constantly generate volume and facilitate trading. We're already negotiating with various partners with whom we can collaborate. Next, regarding the direct involvement of the token within the ecosystem. We're planning to add chests with various game content that can be purchased with Pixar. Most likely, in the clan, as I mentioned about the liquid token, we'll be able to receive USDT, and we could also get SGB. There will also be a possible withdrawal in Pixar to increase additional volume, trade, or hold. The token will be available for staking, so it will also move in the direction of DeFi development. Right now, it's focused on creating a market maker bot, and then it will move on to direct integration. And I think that by the end of the month, we'll see the ability within the Solana network inside Pixel Wallet to sell, buy, and transfer Pixar. In other words, to directly manage the Pixar asset. If you have any questions here, guys, just raise your hand about Pixar, and I'll answer right away. I know that a lot of you guys have gotten involved with it. Let me clarify that the team doesn't have any tokens. The tokens are locked, 80% of them. In just a month and a half, the first burn will take place. The first 20% will be burned forever. Oh, 20. 10? 10, yeah, it's the first 10%. Regarding Pixar, guys, raise your hand. Alex, Alexef, I'm not sure. Let's give him the floor. Alexef, hello.
I've turned on Alexa's microphone. Please speak. All right, a quick pause. I want to thank Telegram for the excellent connection. When Nesneka was speaking, I couldn't hear him at all. And in our Pixel chat, a lot of people are complaining that, basically, hey, we can't hear anything. I hope that in the recording, everyone will be audible.
Well, I started the recording, and I could hear every word, every question. I think the recording is from my side, so everything should be recorded. Angel, the floor is yours.
So about the sound, we can hear it, but it's very quiet.
At least this time there's no interference. Second point, about the distribution. Initially, the terms mentioned something about legendaries, or not legendaries, or something else. That part was skipped. Will there be any kind of distribution for early participants today? I don't know under what terms, and so on. Let me just repeat.
You can barely hear me, right, I assume? I'm just not speaking very loudly right now. Everyone, right? I don't even know what to do about this here.
I can hear Alexander loudly.
I hear everyone loudly. Maybe my volume is set to maximum.
Everyone sounds about equally muffled to me.
If Oleg can hear us well, the recording will be good.
Hear everyone. About the distribution. Look, Angela, distribution is based on trading volume. So, when rewards are credited, as you've noticed, they're coming in very sparsely right now.
This question is about the leagues.
Sorry to interrupt. Initially, there was talk that there would be some extra bonuses or perks for the first users for holding leagues or for something else. Could you please clarify this point?
Yes, there was a point that holders of legendary NFTs.
Legendary NFT holders will receive a share, a payout from the trading volume. Right now, there just isn't any trading volume. So what we plan to distribute, which, if I remember correctly, was 3 or 4%, but we need to double check what we recorded. At the moment, it amounts to a fraction of a cent. You won't even see them right now. Most likely, when the trading volume picks up, we'll do some retroactive drop. Honestly, we just have nothing to give out to you at the moment. That's the truth.
I'm not asking. People brought up this question to clarify.
Yes, that.
Basically, the plans are still in place. The issue is waiting for enough to distribute. Distributing $1 among 100 people, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. So as soon as the volume picks up, we'll do a drop for all holders, like we promised. We remember all of that. Dima, let's give a hand if it's also about Pixar. Guys, for now, please only ask questions about Pixar. Just about Pixar. Dmitry Dima?
Well, I don't see any hands raised for Pixar. I think, if anything, we could always do a separate AMA and a separate chat for PixArmy. So maybe there are questions about the main project already. I think it makes sense.
Let's do that, yes. I just wanted to wrap up this topic in case there are still any questions, so that we don't come back to Pixar again today. Just know that work is ongoing. Right now, it's a difficult and pivotal moment. We need to wait, submit documents everywhere, get verified everywhere, and then we can start because, well, people have a negative attitude. I mean external retail, outside of our community, when they see that there's an exclamation mark next to the token's name. Like, be careful. And people really are cautious. They're not ready to just invest in it without a second thought. Although, remember that moment about a week or a little more ago when we got added to Dex Screener? I think everyone noticed. We immediately had a spike, and I think the commissions paid out about 10 times over in just a few days. Even just Dex Screener together with retail worked out pretty well. So once we finish up these verification and approval issues, things will get interesting.
I turned on Ed's microphone. Ed, ask your question. Glad to see you.
Hi.
Hey, all right, honestly. So, are you at least going to change the name? I already wrote about it. You haven't even renamed the group.
But I feel like, at least locally, just having it called Pixar here is really a big deal. The most important thing here is really the screener Souls Can. The most important is Souls Can, as most retail users check Souls Can and Dex Screener. With Dex Screener, we've already managed to change it, which is good. Applications have been set everywhere.
I don't quite agree here, because again, from the experience of my guys who are really into memes, they go to check social media first. And that's where things start to diverge. That's the issue. That's why I wrote in the group that we should pay attention to this as well. Same goes for Telegram and all that. It just kind of confuses things, you know? You go in, and it's one name here, another name there.
PixArmy just changed it right now.
Even in the work chat, the Pixar logo is still there, not PixArmy. Even the logo, for example. These little details and nuances just throw people off, especially if
They just make people feel doubtful and distrustful. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't think we can change the picture. Oh, we'll do it in Telegram, yeah? Alright, guys.
For example, switching to another contract, is that harder?
No, that's impossible. How much do we have locked up there? Over $45,000 in Solana, and it's impossible to get it out now because the liquidity is locked. As it is, right now, a large amount of money is frozen, and on top of that, we can't afford to do a migration. Even if we start selling now in order to move, first of all, the people who invested will take losses, and so will we. Still, I'd like to find out about the logo. I'll clarify that. As for PixArmy, I think we're done for now. We've discussed a lot, actually. Let's get back to the main project. I've had some users ask me about the Taika network. Last time, we mentioned that we had some deadlines and that we could launch at any moment. Could you remind us of those deadlines again? Are we planning to launch this network? What are our plans for Taika? So, overall, that's a short, maybe not so short question.
Well, with Taika, it actually turned out, how should I put it? I think Oleg could probably explain it better today, find the right words for it. Actually, we had the Taika network ready, yes, so basically, we were prepared to launch it. Here, but there was this nuance, though, that in order to move forward, wait, I think I'm hearing someone, maybe Angel.
No, my microphone was off.
111. Seems fine now. Yeah, sorry about that. So, our network was ready. We had fully prepared the network, and I think we even tested it, actually. But there was this nuance that in our contract, and actually, it was their side that insisted on this when we signed the contract, that the contract had to include KPIs for users. Right? So, once those key performance indicators, or KPIs, were reached, meaning we had achieved the specific goals set for the project, the next grant milestones would be unlocked. This allowed us to continue our work and ensured that we could keep providing users with liquid tokens, which are important for enabling easy and flexible transactions. So, all of this was planned out. But one thing wasn't taken into account. First, that the guys would, let's say, once we had basically prepared the network, take a really hard stance on this whole situation. And what happened there was basically just a misunderstanding, a lack of mutual understanding. I'm not even sure what the right word for it is. But the point is, they said, we're not going to block your funds if you don't hit these metrics. We told them, guys, the market has deflated. It's happened to everyone. Everyone's numbers are down. Plus, we've eliminated a large number of bots and multi-account hackers, and we explained all of this openly. We wrote a huge letter, seriously, like 3 pages long, where we explained everything step by step, breaking it all down, saying, guys, these metrics are unrealistic. I mean, even from the start, when the contract was signed, those metrics were attached as, like, KPIs. Well, it was good to mark something. But again, that was more our oversight. Yeah, that we signed a contract like that, basically trusting the team who said, well, we need to set some metrics, otherwise we can't give you the grant. So, just put something down. Obviously, no one is asking you to make sure everything works out exactly 1-to-1. That's it. Yeah, so, as a result, the metrics we had by the start of the season were almost 3 times different from the target ones. And, in fact, the team didn't meet us halfway. So we said, let's launch. Look, we have a community, but it's not as big as it used to be. But before, basically, it was just hype, like people who jumped in for the hype or just some farms, from the CIS, with 3,000 accounts and so on. So now, the community is more established. It's the people who've been with us for a long time. They're like seasoned miners, so let's play. But no! Basically, they just took a stand, and that was it. So basically, we said, damn, guys, if that's how it is, we're just not interested.
It's not like they were being stubborn, not exactly taking a stand or anything. They said, so, are you launching? You guys go ahead and launch, and we'll see what happens. We told them, we can bring you 3,000 to 5,000 people. And we had, I think 12 or 15,000, right? That was our first milestone for active users?
Yeah, The metrics there are actually pretty high at the moment, both for the market in general and for the project's own metrics.
Yeah, basically, they're kind of unattainable, not just for us, but pretty much impossible for anyone. At the same time, though, Taika had already given us part of the grant. But then, the situation with Scale kind of set us off a bit. Basically, Scale also told us, guys, go ahead and launch. We have 2 million users on Scale. Well, actually, 500,000 users on Scale. Launch now, and people from Scale will come to you. But apparently, in Scale, well, all these blockchains tend to inflate their metrics. In a lot of blockchains, all these metrics we see, they're not real. Most of them have inflated numbers, or the activity is going in the wrong direction. Yeah. So, it's like, this is where the question of quality versus quantity comes in. Everyone has their own compromise here. We're aiming for quality, maybe at the expense of quantity, and yeah, we shouldn't forget that we're still developing the game together with Taika. So, the game that some of our listeners took part in during the playtests, not the testnet, but the playtests. The game is almost finished. I think by mid-July, or mid to late July, we'll already see something. Are you planning to launch the game on the Taika blockchain as well, or not on the Taika blockchain, but with support from Taika using their mascot? That pink blob that crawls around, that's the Taika mascot. It will be featured in the game no matter what, in any case. Which blockchain we'll use will be decided right before the launch, depending on who gives us the most support at that moment. If TON supports us, we'll launch on TON, yes. Negotiations with TON are still ongoing, right? Our last conversation was basically, guys, you're doing great, we're waiting for you. Just fix this, and this point for us. We're working in that direction, because we've already tested the actual gameplay, checked it out, and received positive feedback. Thanks to everyone who participated. And now we're preparing the project specifically for monetization. That includes battle passes, purchases, crafting, item creation, and new maps. In other words, so that the user doesn't just play for 3 days and leave, but actually gets engaged for a long time. Well, that's the news. So, actually, mid-June or July, right, Oleg? That's what you said? Well, not exactly mid-July, end of July. Yeah, so that's about 2 months from now. Well, actually, that's pretty significant news, but we kind of just mentioned it in passing. I think it's important to keep in touch regularly. And to check in from time to time to understand what stage things are at and what to expect. I agree, Mikhail.
So, I suggest we go ahead and ask some questions. Well, our audience is definitely not shy. I'm not sure we've covered all the questions, or maybe the ones left are so minor that there's no point in addressing them in the AMA session. So, if there aren't any immediate questions, maybe we're just waiting for someone bold enough to speak up. For some reason, it's the ladies who are bold again. Here's Angel again. Well,
Yes, I'm boldest one here.
Yes, thanks to Edu as well for always making an effort. Never a single AMA session without questions from him. But it would be nice if maybe some new faces, people who haven't asked questions yet.
Mikhail, while everyone is thinking, I still have another question. I don't know if it's already been discussed, since I was late to the beginning. For those who were super active in leveling up Swisstronic and ended up with zeros in their accounts now, is there any perks planned for them?
There are plans.
Thank you.
plans.
I can even share a little about it.
It would be tempting to hear about it.
Basically, about Swisstronic. Again, this is kind of, well, how should I put it? The kind of thing where I personally really don't like to make promises until everything is absolutely certain. Yeah, but as for Swisstronic, right now, as a matter of fact, we've already made pretty significant progress in working with the team, specifically in preparing the airdrop and everything related to that at this stage. So, there might even be more activities on the network because overall, they liked, let's say, the event we organized back then. So, basically, they ended up being satisfied, as practice has shown. So, accordingly, the distribution of Swisstronic tokens will essentially be, well, roughly speaking, based on the leaderboard, which means that the allocation of these tokens will depend on the rankings and performance shown on the leaderboard. Yeah, I get that this might be kind of shocking, like shock content for the whole AMA. But the distribution won't happen the way many people thought, like, however much I mind, that's exactly what I'll get. Again, it's important to note that the way the tokens are ultimately distributed, these are not our project's tokens, so we can't influence this 100%. So everyone needs to understand that this is kind of a mutual thing, more of a negotiation, because a lot of time has passed, and Swisstronic has its own interests and goals, and so on. They have their own business story. We have our own story. We're here to protect the interests of users because we don't get any Swisstronic tokens ourselves. So, yeah, the team doesn't.
We're not even the ones distributing them.
We're not distributing them.
Right. The smart contract you specifically used to complete your registration in the testnet, as part of the process, transmits the user lists over to Swisstronic. Then they analyze the activity that took place on their network and award users accordingly. But the only positive thing I can say here is that the contract, which we signed the day before yesterday, has been sent to the Swisstronic team, and now the ball is in their court. So, we're just waiting for all these agreements to be signed. But a lot of work has been done, a big, complicated job that took half a year. Now we're just waiting for Swisstronic to sign the contract and distribute the tokens. After that, we'll provide all the information directly once the contract is signed, so that we don't end up in a situation where people say to us again, guys, you promised.
Guys, you did promise that the shards people mined would be given out at a 1-to-10 ratio no matter what. That's what was actually promised. Is it going to be like that or not? I'm not talking about myself. I don't have any at all.
Look, the way it works is, the distribution, like I said, will be based on the leaderboard principle. So what is this distribution based on? Right. Basically, it takes into account your miner, and so on, and so on, and so on. So, the entire pool that we've mined, right, we take it and distribute it among the miners based on their activity. Accordingly, what you had in your account, the 1-to-10 ratio, won't be exchanged. But again, from what I've seen in the tables, all users who had tokens in their accounts will actually receive more tokens. So, it won't be like, I had 500 tokens and I was supposed to get 500 Swisstronics, or rather, 10 Swisstronics, or 50 Swisstronics. Most likely, someone like that will actually get 60 Swisstronics or even 80. So, that's an important point. In that sense, there won't be anyone dissatisfied. So basically, everyone will get more, because in the previous distribution, the tokens that we burned weren't taken into account, those that were burned during the upgrade process. And every user who mined, they burned tokens anyway, otherwise they wouldn't have mined anything. But here, the entire reward pool is being distributed. That means both the burned tokens and, actually, all those that were, well, requested.
Sounds positive. Let's hope that's how it turns out.
Sounds positive. Is it right that most likely the more active users, those who either accumulated a lot or leveled up well, will get more tokens at the expense of those who just disappeared and forgot about the project during this time? Am I understanding this correctly?
Not exactly. So, from the start, the distribution is kind of, well, it's not up to us, right? And that's why we can't. Well, how should I put it? Only those who request it will receive it. It's not that the whole pool will be divided among everyone. It was already divided among everyone from the start. Simply put, those who requested it get it. Those who didn't, don't. That's all.
So, basically, we've already sent the addresses of those who requested to the Swisstronic team. Or is it still not too late to click and get in?
It's already too late. By the time the post was announced, even 15 minutes before the post.
Then we need to ask the tech team to disable the button, because I saw that people were still clicking it yesterday, hoping they get something.
Thank you, Mikhail.
It's going to be a big disappointment for them. They were happy yesterday, but when a distribution happens, they might get upset. I suggest we give the floor to Nevzer Zmeev. I'm turning on his microphone. Nevzer, go ahead.
Apollo, I apologize. Just a quick note here about those who didn't request it and might be upset. Guys, if everything works out, yeah, if nothing falls through for us end. Well, anything can happen, right? So right now, the ball is entirely in the Swisstronic team's court. So, if everything goes as planned and the announcement happens, there will be a second season, and any unclaimed tokens will be moved to the second season. And everyone who, for whatever reason, didn't mine or missed out, they'll be able to join the second season and mine, essentially, one-to-one liquid Swisstronic tokens, which will have already been distributed to miners through the TBE.
But honestly, we haven't heard anything about the second season of Swisstronic in a long time. If it does happen, well, it'll probably really depend on how and what Swisstronic distributes. I think if a lot of people end up satisfied,
The second season will only happen if they distribute.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. The second season, we kind of, well, roughly speaking, we already know what it's going to be like, right? So, if for some reason it does happen, or rather, if it doesn't happen, then, well, it just won't happen.
Here's a brief lyrical digression before Nevzer starts speaking. As it turned out, crypto, the whole crypto world, really, everything we've encountered, doesn't like to keep its commitments at all. I mean, even the case we had, the example with the Units blockchain that we were supposed to launch, where we spent a lot of our own money and effort, they just said at the last minute, what, Telegram banned TON? Everything except TON? Okay, goodbye go. You get what I mean, right? Where are you going? And by that point, we'd already spent over $30-something thousand on development. And honestly, the whole crypto world is like that. Their contracts don't mean anything. For us, it was a bit of a shock, really, for the whole team. For example, with Alexander and Ninja, we've known each other a long time. We're used to saying something and then doing it. But unfortunately, there are a lot of things here that just don't depend on us. No matter how much we want them to. We can only be responsible for ourselves. We try to keep our promises. We really do bend over backwards sometimes to deliver on what we've promised you.
well, many people see things, well, not everything, of course, but everyone sees what they want to see. I want to ask a question that's not directly related to our project. It's a question about the state of the cryptocurrency market. I'd probably like Alexander to answer this one. So, it's 2025 now, already summer.
Wait, why did we skip over Nevzer?
Go ahead. Nevzer wants to say something.
He changed his mind. Nevzorov, are you here? Can you hear us?
We can't hear you.
Microphone. Turn on your microphone and you can ask your questions.
Born in the USSR.
Figured it out. Hey everyone. So, my question is actually about syndicates. Let me go back a bit, if that's okay. There was this kind of seditious, at least for me, bit of information that came up that the head of a syndicate could eventually be removed by a vote. Is that true or not?
Only for prolonged inactivity.
So if I'm always online, then no one can just vote me out, right? Is that correct?
No.
From this position. Well, that's it. That was my question.
That's a shame.
Why is it a shame?
Absolutely not a lie. I honestly put more into the syndicate than anyone else. So I really don't want to get quietly replaced again like Igor did to me.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
In our case, well, I'm just a member of the syndicate, and there's a really strict dictatorship there. Maybe some of you have seen it. So I don't know. Maybe we'll have to start a rebellion. I'm just planning ahead. That's all.
No, it's more like...
You'd have to cut off the electricity for that.
Yeah, what if?
Of course, I'm just joking. In reality, we shouldn't forget that a syndicate is, in fact, a big social thing. So make sure to bring in people you'll be comfortable spending a long time with, and who won't bring any sort of negativity or bad energy. so that neither you nor anyone else ends up in a bad mood. That's probably the most important thing to keep in mind in a syndicate, above all else. If everyone's on the same wavelength, you'll just enjoy playing Pixel Wallet together and won't have to worry about anyone trying to pull a fast one on you. But of course, no one's completely protected from that.
Pixel Wallet. It almost feels like we should rename ourselves to Hello Pixel, or Hello Pixel App, or Hello Pixel Hub. I've seen this a lot in the chat when users say, "But you're a wallet, aren't you?" You have to understand that we're actually an economic strategy game based on a crypto wallet. Thinking aloud, sorry.
Well, actually, maybe. But again, as far as I remember, Oleg, I think there were definitely plans to connect it this summer. At least, that's what I recall.
We're going to have a lot of DeFi directions. Yeah, exactly. So right now, with our...
Honestly, it would actually be convenient, like, since we use the Polygon network a bit, to add a swap there, at least a couple of pairs like POL and USDC. Those two pairs would be really useful.
Misha, it's like you read our minds. Seriously, like you read our minds. Just literally. I think it was the day before yesterday, I was sitting and thinking about it, and I had the idea to give direct access to Uniswap. And it's not even just about Polygon or anything like that. Basically, you'll just be able to enter a pair at the top, a pair at the bottom, and if it's available on Uniswap, you'll be able to swap it easily. So I was looking into how to integrate this smoothly, and overall, it's not that big of a challenge, but in any case, I mean, if I can handle the blockchain part on my end, I'll need Maxim, who's currently working on our land projects in scheduled development, and we'll finish up this iteration first. So we'll launch the land feature first, and after that, we'll move on to some DeFi components, take a little breather, and then keep going.
Yeah, and I think it probably makes sense to add the Solana network too. No matter what's going on with PixArmy, good or bad, it would probably be nice for the community to see the token in their native wallet. That's the first point. And the second request, probably, is that it shouldn't be too hard to add the ability to add a custom token. Basically, once we've connected the network, users should be able to add whatever tokens they want to see in their balance.
Here, you need to understand, guys, that if you're talking about just adding a token to the wallet, then, in general, it's basically doable for a user to add their custom token by address.
Not their own. I mean any token they need to see, for example.
USDC, Trump, what else was there?
By contract.
Yeah, by contract. By the way, that's actually not the most complicated feature. When we add the Pixar swap to our wallet, the only thing is that the swap will happen exclusively through Meteor at the very beginning. We could consider adding, no, everything will go through Meteor. So, overall, adding a token is possible. I'll even make a note of it for myself right now.
Well, there aren't many questions today. Either it's a geomagnetic storm, or we've really answered everything. Or maybe a Telegram bug is messing things up and half the audience can't hear us, or doesn't realize they can ask questions.
It's sad. We're trying.
Oh, Reddit. I see Jim. Jim is first. Hi, Jim. Let's try again now. Microphone is on. Jim, welcome. Go ahead.
Hello. Hi.
Yes, hi.
Two scary words. The first one has 3 letters. The second one has 7. The first is TGE. The second is listing.
So what's the difference? We've seen the difference, Oleg. Look, here's what we have.
Yeah, I understand that TGE stands for Token Generation Event.
Right.
The difference is actually, simply, or at least mainly in the number of letters.
Not just that. I get it. Look, TGE itself, meaning the moment when the pixel token becomes transferable, when it gets that status? Without. I can answer the difficulties.
What I wanted to ask, I just wanted to ask something. So, as far as I understand, you want to finish up the app, get everything done. The way I see it, most likely, for a good listing, the team is probably waiting for some kind of alt-season, some market hype, and then, so to speak, jump into the market and grab their piece of the pie while things are hot. At least, that's how it seems to me. So, my question is, since I'm an active trader, I know that all kinds of situations can happen in the market. So my question is, does the team have a plan B and C just in case? Because anything can happen, this is the market, and we never know what might occur. What if Bitcoin drops to 60 or 50,000 and stays there for a year or two? If there's no alt season, Bitcoin stays near 50 to 70,000. Do we postpone the listing for 6 months, a year and a half, or 2 years?
Guys, let me just be honest with you. Let me tell you straight up. Look, the Pixel project, basically, yeah, its beginning was funded by the team's own money, which at this point has been depleted because, for us, the Pixel project, which we've been building for a year and a half now, isn't just a job, it's our life. We are completely, fully immersed in our project. We're developing it. We're looking to the future. So, guys, this really is our job, our life. For us, this is everything. I'm talking about the core team right now. Yeah. So, the funds we had at the very beginning have been spent. In addition to that, we also raised some money from our pre-seed investors, about $100,000. Guys, thank you all so much. We're in touch with almost all of you. Thank you for believing in us. I think there are no issues with them. We keep communicating, and you can always message me directly. So, that was part of the funds. Then we received some small grant money, which was also spent on development. And now we have some revenue being generated by the project itself. That comes from drones in some cases, from boxes in others, and from paid transactions as well. So, in one way or another, some money is still being accumulated, which is used to pay salaries. That's how it is. So, at the moment, the funds the team has, the funds the project has, can be spent in two ways. Now, just try to hear this as a user, as someone interested in the ecosystem. What can we do with these funds? First, we can do a listing. All right, so we launched the token now and put $150,000 to $200,000 into the liquidity pool. We have our core audience, but that's not the main point. So, roughly, what do we see during a listing if we go for one? We see our token start to drop straight down, like a huge red candle. So, what do our users start doing? They want to exit. And what effect do we get? We end up with a token that's dropped by 90%, and at this point, we have an unfinished product with no economic cycle and no real demand for the token. In other words, there's no reason to buy the token. You get what I'm saying here, right? This is the point. This is the first way we could use the funds. And the second option is that we can use these funds to build a product, so that regardless of whether we go public with $200,000 or with $10,000, the users who come to us will understand that it's profitable to buy Pixel right now, because someone bought Pixel for 5, played for 2 weeks, and turned it into 6. I'm speaking figuratively here about the numbers. So what do you think? I mean, we're the guys, the core team, who live and breathe this project, spending 12 to 15 hours a day on it for a year and a half now. Which path is better? To give away the money for no reason, because we can. Throw away $200,000, 20 million rubles.
throw it away, or maybe actually build a product that not only lets us, but also you, make money. Just think about it for a second. We have 10 people who are fully committed to this project, who have dedicated their lives to it, and who have kids. For example, Ninja has 2 kids, Vitalik and Stroy have kids too, and so does our CEO.
He has 3, right?
3 kids. So, just between 2 team members, there are 5 kids. And these people aren't doing anything else. They live and breathe this project. Just look at my situation. Should I just hand out money to everyone for nothing, or should I finish the product that will actually earn and generate money? From the very beginning, we planned for 2 years to build this project. I'm being as honest and straightforward with you as possible right now. What do you think I should do? What would you do in my place?
Well, obviously, if we listed right now, the price candles will probably just crash down.
Right away, it'll shoot up by 200,000.
I was wondering if there's a plan B or C in case the market conditions. Let's not even consider our pixel vote, the team, or anything else, just the market. If Bitcoin goes to 50,000 and stays there for 2 years, that happens, yeah.
Can I add something here too, since tonight is a night of confessions? I'd like to share my thoughts as well.
Thank you.
About Bitcoin at 60,000. Honestly, whether Bitcoin is at 50 or 60,000 right now, I don't really see a fundamental difference, to be honest. People are deep into altcoins, they don't care where Bitcoin goes anymore. You've got a portfolio of altcoins. Sorry, but we've all been here.
Go ahead.
So, you have a portfolio of altcoins there. How is it doing? Fine. I don't follow it at all. So, you don't have any altcoins in your portfolio, right?
No else now.
All right, fair enough. Let's put it this way. For those people who do have altcoin portfolios, who aren't actively trading, but are more old school, just holding, just holding onto them, so to speak. I'm sure that unless you bought something super hyped, like really at the top, then most likely you're down, at best, like 70%, right?
Yes, 70, 80, 90. Compared to Bitcoin itself, the drop is even bigger, if you take into account.
So, to answer the question about Bitcoin, it really doesn't matter. I mean, regarding everything Oleg said, I'll just add this. Basically, projects take off, no matter what, in bull markets. In bear markets, only those with a ton of money really take off, I mean, really, right? You look at the market, it's tanking, but some guys come out and they've got tier 1 funds backing them. So they can make a good showing, right? Well, because they have the money, basically. Like Oleg said, our project was basically built from the start with our own money, yeah. Then, the community got involved, and through monetization, they're helping to build it. Of course, we're working on PR, right? So, we're continuing to collaborate with blockchains, right? For example, we're negotiating with Svestronic about the second season, and we're talking with several blockchains about launching there as well, bringing in the community, and getting some kind of liquid token. Right now, look at the chart. Take 10 blockchains. Take Arbitrum, which used to cost $2.50, and people wanted to buy it for $1, if only Arbitrum was $1. Where are those people now?
Even Starknet, where bloggers are luring people in.
Okay.
Let's not say a word about Starknet.
Yeah, let's not touch Starknet.
Top bloggers hyped it up. Now how much is it worth? 15.
The reason I brought up Arbitrum, let me just finish my thought. Why do I often use Arbitrum as an example when talking about the overall market conditions in blockchains, especially L2S? Because Arbitrum has a very solid monthly revenue. This company is making really good money. And even for such a large company, their token is still in a major slump. So, what am I getting at? I'm saying, for example, we're here with the Songbird network, right? So, we're studying this network. We're following news and inflow for involved. Well, Oleg is the one who keeps up with it the most, you could say. One way or another, they have their own news, their own expectations, like how they're going to enter the market, right? In other words, what growth drivers for their token they're going to use. So we more or less understand that if everything works out, especially for the Flare team, then Songbird will give good returns, and Flare will also give good returns. If this happens in the context of the market, on top of everything else, like if there's also an alt season, then those returns will be really impressive. Yeah, so in that case, we'll have enough Songbirds to do a proper listing, right? A proper TGE. So if with our current holdings, we get 5 or 6 times returns from Songbird, we'll all be feeling pretty good. And the users who are holding Songbird, who are circulating funds within Pixel, and the team, who have a small stash of Songbirds as well, they're all counting on its growth. Basically, all these factors will naturally have a positive impact on the listing. Yeah, even if Bitcoin drops to 60, we'll still keep working on the project, trying to make it interesting, you know?
You will wait.
No.
It's not that we're going to wait. We're going to keep working. We'll keep looking for funds, keep looking for investors. We'll keep improving the project, working on onboarding, looking for interesting marketing strategies that fit our budget, and so on and so forth.
I want to add here, you just have to understand that at some point our project will really become an economic strategy. You come in, put in $1, take out $1.50, and it doesn't matter if Bitcoin is 100, 50, or 20. So it's basically an economic tool, a financial one. You put in $1, you get $1.50.
Well, that's just awesome. So it turns out it's also profitable for you because, well, there are different commissions and all that, but you're mainly counting on the growth of SGB.
Oh, no.
What else are you on them?
That's one side of it, just one aspect. Remember scale, low activity, but accumulating. So, scale, well, I personally have known the token since, say, 2017, when scale first hit the market, right? So I've been involved with it through all the cycles, and I've managed to make pretty good money on it. Here. So, there's also scale. Plus, you have to understand that when alt season starts, right, what's going to happen? Basically, the big players are going to start moving their money into altcoins, right? And then, basically, there's going to be a wow moment. That's what everyone's waiting for, what all the retail investors are waiting for, and honestly, even people who aren't retail anymore. At that point, the funds start making really good money, right? Because when alt season kicks off and retail comes in, the funds start getting richer. So, as a result, the decision-making time for funds, the time it takes them to make a decision, gets much shorter, and the number of investments goes up, as does the number of projects, and, of course, the amount of money being invested.
I tell stories I shall finish.
Well, basically, that's it. So, naturally, with this growth, the chances of onboarding some funds into a project with a community that hasn't died out, while everyone else has, are higher, and the token is still alive. So hopefully we'll manage to find the key to breaking through the resistance, and so on. But I mean, the chances to go up, yeah, in a bull market. Right now, though, in all the chats I just see gloom and sadness.
Yeah.
Let's look at November and December of last year, before all this growth happened, during that mini alt season that was going on. We were in talks with several major funds from Taiwan, including Animoca brands, who knew about us and were ready to invest quite a lot of money in us. But then a series of events happened. First, the alt season ended, then that black swan event occurred, and people lost trillions of dollars. After that, Taiwan announced that no other blockchain would be allowed. And our potential fund, which was supposed to secure our listing, on the 5th of May, I think this conversation was still going on even in the 3rd month. They just said, guys, come back in a year. Just come back in a year, okay? We're not planning to give anyone money for a year. We went to other funds we had been talking to, and everyone told us, look, the situation is such that, well, nobody wants to invest right now. And it's not even about us. I mean, despite. Actually, we're in a good niche right now. We have SaaS, software as a service, which is a pretty cool niche for startups and funds.
Right now, people just aren't willing to give out money. So we don't have the opportunity to attract that easy money, even though we have you, our community, and we already have a working product. The market just changed very suddenly, like snapping your fingers. And all our rose-colored glasses, they were taken off, broken, and we were basically left to fend for ourselves. It's a good thing we had some savings at that moment. It's good that we had the option to downsize the team somewhere. And I'm grateful that I have my team, who believes in me. And honestly, I'll tell you, some of the guys went 3 or even 4 months without getting paid, even though we had money. We just switched to energy saving mode. Now, the situation is much better. You can already see the end of this economic cycle on the horizon. We made a few right strategic decisions, like giving up Taika. That was actually a very good decision. Looking back now, I can see that if we had gone down that path, we would have lost about a quarter or a fifth of the money we have. Most likely, we wouldn't have shown any results. We would have spread ourselves too thin with yet another network. We would have gotten even more hate from users. So overall, even though we admit, both the Pixel team and I as the founder, that we've made a lot of mistakes along the way, nothing critical has happened, nothing that could destroy our project. I mean, I think you can look at the TMA market right now. It's not really worth discussing other projects, but you can see what happened with TMA. 98.5%, maybe even 99% of projects just died. Some of them just scam people. Others simply apologize like, sorry guys, we can't keep going anymore. We exist, and we continue to grow. Thanks to my team, those who understood, accepted, listened, tightened their belts when needed, or paused when necessary. We keep developing our product. And we understand that regardless of what happens to the crypto market, no matter which way Bitcoin goes, we know that our product, our economic strategy, our gaming hub, has a place in this world. And even those funds that are now turning down investments, not just us, but in general, they tell us, guys, you're awesome, you're really awesome. Honestly, there are hardly any alternatives to you on the market right now when it comes to fully on-chain products like yours. Yes, many times along the way we had to make do, because it allowed us to adapt and adjust to the market. That's just how it is, really. Crypto is like that, unfortunately. It's very hard to follow your original plan exactly. But we're doing our best. We live and breathe this. We live and breathe Pixel. For us, it's more than a job or a project. And we love and appreciate all of you. Even if sometimes we come off as a bit harsh or don't respond to something, please don't take it the wrong way. Like I mentioned earlier, we had to downsize part of our team. After reducing the team, all those responsibilities were redistributed among those who stayed. And while before the team members used to work 6 to 8 hours, now some are working 10 or even 12 hours. Once again, thank you to everyone on the team.
Thank you.
Guys, I apologize. I don't want to press on a sore spot. I completely understand the situation and the circumstances, but the topic of marketing and so on has come up many times already. I understand that, due to a lack of funds, nothing will happen in the near future on that front either. But how can we keep players interested and stop? Well, not exactly distrust, but something like that. But judging by the market, yeah, people have started dumping. After all, those who had a lot of NFTs, who have been in the game for a long time, are either tired or have lost faith. So how do we sort this out so that everything goes well moving forward?
Let me put it simply. Everyone who stays, everyone who believes, everyone who sticks it out until we finish the land and construction plans. They'll thank themselves, and they'll laugh at everyone who bailed and left.
I'll jump in here too, by the way. So to answer the question, well, you definitely can't give a straightforward answer. Why not? Because everyone has their own request, right? Some people want to make money, some are interested in playing or not interested, and others have their own motives. Right. So you just can't give a clear-cut answer here about what to do in that case. People are dumping NFTs. Why are they dumping? Because, for example, they're not interested in playing. Or maybe they don't believe in the team, that the team will actually do anything worthwhile. Or maybe the person just wants to make money, right? Or maybe they really need the money right now, so they're dumping. Or maybe they got offended by something, you know? Like someone promised something and didn't deliver. So everyone has their own story, of course. That's why. Basically, the fact that we're working, that we're staying in touch, releasing content, and continuing on. By the way, it seems to me that content has started coming out faster again. And in fact, it will keep coming out like that. So I think that everyone who's genuinely interested in what we're doing, specifically from the product perspective, meaning they enjoy it, they'll stick around as long as the project keeps developing and moving forward.
2 quick questions. For some reason, I keep wanting to ask 2 questions at a time. The ones I promised to ask, the ones I said I would. I'm afraid I'll forget the second one by the time I ask the first. The first question is important. All users in the project received NFTs for the project's anniversary, like ducks, legendary and epic ducks. So when?
Should I give a quick answer? Look, guys, as for the ducks, why we didn't attach anything to the ducks in terms of the current mechanics? Well, at the time when the duck was, so to speak, released, it was basically because our first mining cycle was coming to an end. So, whatever gets attached to the duck will be part of the new cycle. But, not forgotten it.
In terms of timing, are we talking a year, 2, a month after winter or before release?
I can't say yet. Right now, you see, here's the thing. Let me go off on a little tangent here. So, it seems like it's just a duck. What could be simpler? It's just one picture, a single object. Like, just add 30% to this for me, either there or here, 5 each. Well, it might seem that way, but in reality, to properly integrate an item into the current economy, so that in 3 or 6 months it doesn't backfire. You have to take the entire current balance, the whole economy as it is, go through it, weigh everything, try things out, and basically spend about the same amount of time on it. Well, okay, maybe it takes half as much time, but it still takes a lot of time just to figure out what to add to this duck. That's it. So basically, we keep that in mind.
Quick question. Is it possible that we'll potentially see a bridge between Songbird and Scale inside the Pixel wallet at some point in the foreseeable future? Just wondering?
This is more a question for Oleg. How do we actually see the future, the ongoing connection with Songbird?
I mean, well, not gaming broadcasts or anything like that.
Got it.
I mean specifically a bridge in terms of liquid tokens. So, as it stands, we don't have any stablecoins on Songbird. So that means either adding them within the scale on Songbird. I don't know if that's even possible there. So, overall, this is definitely a tricky issue, because after all, there are no stablecoins on Songbird. That's probably the main problem, right? Here's how I see it.
Well, again, the question is, what's the actual problem? We need to understand the specific case here. For example, there are people who want to immediately convert SGB to USDT, like those who are accumulating or doing some kind of turnover, let's say. Or why?
The question is, for instance, let's say I have roughly 1,000 SGB and my scale has ended or is about to end. I want to transfer part of my SGB into scale so that I have it there.
Got it. So basically, it's about financial interaction between the chains. I understand. Well, as for bridges, I guess, I'm not sure. Maybe Oleg stepped away somewhere.
All right, let's just make a note of it. Maybe when Oleg comes back.
In any case, we'll connect everything. We'll connect everything, no matter what. Yeah. So, at first, you see, we were actually developing a bridge from Songbird to Flare, and from Flare, basically, through the EVM, it's not that hard. And we even developed it. But at that time, this is also part of the story. This is to the point. Yeah, like Oleg says, guys, this is crypto. We spent quite a long time trying to figure out their Flare documentation. They have their own separate story with bridges. Basically, it's kind of ready-made. I don't remember what this bridge is called, but that's not important. So we set up this bridge, tried to launch it, but it just wouldn't start. And we were like, damn, it seems like everything should be working already, right? Yeah. So we get in touch with the technical team, and they tell us, well, there's no validator. We're like, come on, how is that possible? Well, there just isn't a validator. Sorry. So, basically, that's it. I mean, there's no validator, right, that could actually validate this bridge. But the documentation does say it's possible to set one up. Feel free to do it.
Obviously, we can't launch every single blockchain.
No, I just mean that, you know, we did the work in general, we probably could have, addressed this issue, like, done better research, but at the time, we just didn't look in that direction. Basically, we didn't launch the bridge, and we wasted time.
I suggest we give the floor to Pavel. Pavel, go ahead. Turn on your microphone.
Hello. And now this is already the second topic. Again, we did the work, took the steps, and then stumbled at one of the steps. We just didn't check something. It's the same thing with Pixar. It was obvious that you can't use Pixar as a name because of copyright. It's obvious to me. But it wasn't obvious to your marketing specialist. What changes have you made in the project so that in the future you can anticipate the next step? Maybe you brought in some kind of advisor, or maybe something else. But it's clear that you need to do things a little differently, so you don't waste time and focus on areas where you won't hit a dead end. That's my first question.
One at a time. Alexander, answer.
Well, again, regarding the token, that's probably more of a question for Oleg. Honestly, to be honest, I'm not really fully up to speed on what's actually going on there. But if we look at it overall, you know, about the fact that, well, everyone makes mistakes, no matter what. But not everyone actually works on correcting those mistakes. And those who do work on their mistakes, well, they each approach it differently. As for advisors, we have advisors, actually more than one. So, there are people in certain areas where, for example, we might lack experience, who can give us advice. That's how it is. But even having advisors, more than one, in fact, doesn't protect you from making mistakes. Especially when you're working in a high-tech market, and really, a pretty young market at that, right? And you're building a project that uses hybrid development, meaning both blockchain and backend. I mean, well, that's just how it goes sometimes. Of course, we draw conclusions from it. And not only do we draw conclusions, we also take action, you know? With any future integration projects, we look at things from a lot more angles now. So, that also takes a certain amount of time.
Great, yes. Everyone makes mistakes. And you're absolutely right. It's great to learn from your mistakes. It's great that you're doing that. Second, when you're getting a free box, they suggest you read the news. I go to read the news, but there's nothing there. Maybe there's a way to set it up so that step is hidden if there's no news?
That's just an activity. You're simply keeping the channel active by visiting it every day, even if there's no news.
So it's actually good for the channel?
It is good, yes, thanks to everyone who visits.
That's why it was done. Here, about the advisor. Actually, the question was asked, guys, what about Pixar? And the answer we got was basically, who cares? We're in crypto. We're pirates. Let's go all in. Things change so fast here that yesterday we were pirates, and today, after Trump came in, you know, with this whole legalization of crypto, he said, no, now everyone has to operate legally. So, when the advisor just 2 months ago thought it didn't matter and we should just go for it, now it actually does matter.
That's exactly right. Look, I know that in the Russian media space, there will be changes to the law regarding advertising starting September 1st. So, those who are involved in that will need to take it into account. Here.
Honestly, here, pretty much everything changes almost every day. I mean, nothing stays the same for long.
Yeah, Another important point for the future, right? Well, there's a lot of information out there about the crisis of 2027, the change in the financial system, and so on. If it really does happen in 2027, do you have a plan to keep the project going if something goes wrong and things start to fall apart?
That's partly why we're now looking toward a new and innovative economic strategy, toward a game where people can actually earn real money, so that we're not just a simple financial tool, but also a vibrant and dynamic hub of activity for users. In other words, we're gradually building up our audience, our core community, step by step. And even if you think back, I don't know, to crypto 3 years ago, right now our project has about 10,000 users. Well, not all of them are active, but 10,000 users who visit the project. Our news gets about 3 to 4,000 views, and that's from people who check manually, not through any kind of bot or abuse. That's it. If we remember crypto 2 or 3 years ago, if a project had 2 or 3,000 users, that was a huge success, a super mega cool achievement. You know. And we understand that we really have a strong, solid core audience, and together we'll get through anything. Just let us finish the development stage, the development phase.
As a financial analyst, guys, let me make a small correction. I've been involved in this since 2010, or even 2009, 2008. I expect the economic situation to worsen in 2026, late in the year. We'll see who's right. It's a living organism, everything changes. But just keep that in mind.
Well, actually,
A couple of words. Sorry, Misha. I'm also, you could say, an amateur financial analyst, and I believe that the financial crisis happened a long time ago. It started in 2008, and honestly, since then we've just been falling deeper and deeper, hitting rock bottom, so to speak. And the situations that people call a crisis are really just another stage of the same thing.
Well, not exactly. Let's not argue for too long, but I don't completely agree. By 2019, we had already reached the crisis, but then, as you know, that illness changed everything a bit. Let's see what happens next. Time will tell.
So, basically, the year times 2 for everything. Well, give or take, more or less. And that's everywhere. Not just in Russia or in Europe, but everywhere.
I think it will happen, but no one knows when. We'll all find out together. Let's give the floor to Mechanicus, who's been waiting. Mechanicus, good evening. Go ahead. Please turn on your microphone and ask your question.
Good evening. I have a question. Zuki, today, and actually quite often you say that you're developing an economic strategy. But at the moment, basically, it's been in development for about a year. And for example, what I see is loot boxes, random, drones, random, boosts, random. So my first question is, what exactly is economic in the game? That's what I'd like to know.
development of your account, your mine, planning actions, using the marketplace, using the clan, building the right strategy with your future plan mates. Lands, how to develop, how to build, why upgrade, which resources to extract, how to use, trade, or invest in development. That's where the starting point of the economic cycle begins, the one we've discussed many times.
And let's not forget about the native token, which is central to all this and also has its own volatility relative to the market. That's also an element of the economy. It's just that everyone sees it differently. Some view it as a means of payment, while others treat this variable as part of the market. We have some really smart players, you know, and we have metrics, right? And honestly, some people are impressive, the way they think about all this. So,
Jim, did you have another question?
Yeah, I just got caught up whistling.
no, maybe the question is, Mechanicus, maybe you wanted to.
No, I have another question coming up.
No problem.
It's about the economic cycle. I mean, this term gets used a lot. So, in my understanding, it's a certain model, but in your view, it's probably something different. And actually, each team member probably has their own take on it, too. Honestly, yeah. So for me personally, when I'm deciding whether to stay in the project or not, or let's say whether to reduce my involvement in terms of liquidity, in terms of money. So, for example, personally, I feel like there's not enough specifics in this economic cycle. I mean, specifics about exactly which mechanics will lead me to profit, you know? So, if we're talking about a Web3 project where money plays the main role, we're here for the money. Basically, yeah, it's a game. But the main key point is the money. And so, like, we get it. You saying there are drones, there's dust, we process it, there are lands, buildings. All of that is great. It's cool, wonderful, and interesting. But exactly how a person, after investing some amount of money, will actually make a profit, that's really unclear. Seriously, I mean, what is the actual economic cycle here? Take me, for example. I come in, have $100, buy a pixel or maybe a drone, or buy some dust. I process it, buy a building, set it up, process it, get something, sell it. That's the profit in my pocket. So there's no specifics, or at least very little. I mean, the model isn't clear. It's not clear how the user is supposed to make money. What kind of earning model are you specifically building into your economic strategy for the user?
Well, again, here each user answers that question for themselves. That's the first thing. Yes. In other words, everyone decides for themselves. Some people, I personally know users who, let's say, have made money here, are still playing, have good positions, and they're in the black, they've earned money. Yes, so.
Sorry to interrupt. Let me rephrase my question to make it clearer. Right now, at this moment, can you explain, more or less, in just a few words, what the actual earning mechanism or model is for a user, let's say an average user with a small bankroll, like $100 or maybe $500, so that they can actually make money? So that, as you said, they come in and, for example, turn $1 into $1.50 over a certain period of time and have some kind of transparent economic model. What is it? I'm trying to understand it. I can imagine it, but I just can't. That's why I ask you.
You actually described it a little earlier. So you come in, buy a pixel, upgrade a mine a pixel, upgrade the drone's mine, buy a drone, buy land, join a syndicate, build the structure, and run a processing cycle. In the end, you get a token. During this process, yes, we're jumping a bit ahead now. You might get attacked, and you can defend yourself. You can have your own mines that you protect, and resources that you manage.
So, after completing this whole operation, you know exactly what amount you have. But to tell you right now, guys, look, here's the exact structure, is very difficult, because our development is done using agile methods. You see, you haven't come to a finished product, and that's exactly why.
No, sorry to interrupt, but actually, I have a simpler way to look at this. Let's just focus on the drone part, okay? Let's look at it as it is right now, at this point in time. So, you come in, build a mine, buy a drone, mine pixel dust, and sell the pixel dust. Let's say this is the earning scheme. How is it going to work out? Well, personally, I can't say right now. Why? Because there are so many variables that, how does it work here? If you look at it from a higher level, why do people get into crypto? To make money. Where does that money come from? In crypto, where does the money come from?
They profit from inefficiency.
Yes, so accordingly.
That's one of the models, and that's what I'm asking about. Which specific model in the script in Web3 have you chosen, or are you building into your economic model so that?
We have an economic cycle.
I'm trying to understand.
Okay, we have an economic cycle, within which different values circulate, right? So, for example, pixel dust is a value. Drones are a value, boosts are a value, right? So, how to obtain them and turn a profit from them, that's something the user decides. But there definitely are such schemes. And I know that many users, well, okay, many of the active users, at least, actually use these schemes to circulate in-game values, right? So what is a cycle? Exactly. A cycle is where, at each point, you can obtain one value at the expense of another value, for example, or even two values. So what is it all about? It's about extracting profit from it. What kind of profit? It's the money of other players or from the pools we accumulate that we...
You're forgetting commission values, Sasha. In many places we collect commissions. The same marketplace made over $50,000.
That's a different story.
Those funds saved for the economy.
Yes, sorry. I was actually going to get to that, you know. And then, when the cycle is complete, that is, when, let's say, less resources are needed for development in the way it's happening right now, right? So, these resources collected during this cycle, from monetization, from user commissions, will they be directed toward distribution, meaning added to liquidity? And with this setup, there will be an additional source. But all of this is other people's money. I mean, we can't just make money out of thin air, right? So, someone comes in for fun, spends money for enjoyment, not to make a profit. If the project only has people who want to make money, then no one will make any. Pretty clear, right? Oh no.
Well, that's gambling addiction.
Well, something like that.
People come to the market. Wait. People come to any financial market to make money.
All right.
Another thing is, some people leave with money, some leave with nothing, but that's a different story. Did I understand you correctly that, basically, you're creating a platform, some kind of project, an ecosystem where everyone comes in with some assets, some liquidity, they interact with each other in some way, and some people interact more effectively for themselves. They take money out of this project. So those who spend inefficiently there or interact with the platform in the wrong way, like say they buy the wrong drones or make some kind of mistake, right? And as a result, they lose money, and that money basically goes to others. So it turns out that users are competing with each other, and accordingly, syndicates are competing with each other, and so on. Exactly.
That's absolutely right. We're building an ecosystem where users exchange value with each other, right? According to their own principles, based on their own. In other words, it's the user who determines the value of an item, not us. We can't set that value. We provide users with value. Someone might say, this is worth $1,000. Another says, I'll give $1,000. He pays. Or he might say, no, this guy is crazy, at most 100, and he pays $100 for it. And so, the crazy guy ends up being just a regular guy, and they sell it for $100. And we get a commission from that, right? Like, say, 10% for providing, basically, the platform where people are interested, where people are interested, basically, in exchanging value with each other according to the principle we came up with. Whether it's a profit or a loss, that's already, well, like you said, like you correctly pointed out, right? So it really just depends on each person, on their own skills and how they do things.
Well, I also want to point out that there are non-gaming monetization opportunities as well.
Honestly, again, I know this might not be entirely appropriate. Sorry, Misha. But I actually spend my own money on Pixel just because I enjoy it. I mean, I spend exactly as much as brings me enjoyment. So, I'm not like a hardcore donor or anything, you know, someone who buys 1 million loot boxes. But sometimes I just go in and spend my own money, not because it's my project or anything like that, but simply because I think it's fun. Well, that's just the kind of person I am. I spend money on games. That's just how it's always been for me.
Can I ask a quick question? It's just that maybe I missed it. Maybe I wasn't paying attention or made a mistake. I couldn't find your accounts. I mean, I've heard several times that everyone on the team has accounts, but they're not visible.
It's just not knowing.
No, well, let me answer that question.
If everything is open, like, well, the team accounts, unfortunately, I personally, for example.
You can check through the clans now, for example. That's probably the way I know how to do it. We have a clan called Pixel Admins. You can go in there and see the list of members. I'm already there with a nickname I made myself. By the way, I think everyone there has already made themselves nicknames too.
Mechanicus, here's a little task for your free time. Find the admin's syndicate.
Mechanicus, a question for you. What do you think? Is it, let's say, ethical to try to join a project and make money by abusing the project?
By the way, someone just told me our clan isn't actually visible.
If abuse is somehow officially declared as abuse, then yes, it's not ethical. In other words, the answer is yes, it's not ethical. If the situation is debatable and it's not clear whether it's abuse, a feature, or just a flaw. So you see, for example, if we're talking about dust, yeah, like dust, if there's nothing in the interface that makes it clear that this is abuse or that it's not allowed, an illegal action. Meaning, as a user, I have to go into some chat to find out that this is considered abuse. But that's just nonsense, really. From the perspective of an ordinary user, I absolutely shouldn't have to go into any chats just to use the app or the wallet. So if the wallet itself gives me this feature without any issues and doesn't indicate in any way that it's wrong, then how am I actually supposed to know that it's wrong?
Well, I think the question here isn't really about whether you can figure it out or not. I mean, I don't know. I've been playing games for a long time, and in 99% of cases, okay, let's say 95%, when I come across some exploit or bug, I have no doubt about whether it was intended by the developers or not. What is that exactly? You could call it a hunter's instinct, or something like that. It's kind of an internal thing, like, oh, this is obvious, come on, let's go here, you know? So, well, that's just by the way, just saying.
Sorry to interrupt, but I can add something. It's the same situation with those clickers during the leaderboard event. It's the same thing. It was kind of considered either an exploit or not an exploit. You see, you yourselves created a precedent with your own hands, where exploiting the system was basically official. Even the helpers admitted that they used it, so it was officially allowed. So you yourselves created a precedent where an unclear, ambiguous situation can be interpreted in two different ways. That's it. That's all there is to it. Although I had no intention of doing so, for example, I personally never used it for my own purposes at all.
Well, about the precedent being set, that's clear. But that's logical, right? I mean, of course, any precedent is created by us, whether consciously or unconsciously. That's just natural.
Let's move on. Nevzer, Jim have questions.
Yes, let's give the floor to Nevzer. Nevzer, turn on your mic and ask your question.
Hey everyone, once again. It's gotten a bit stuffy in here. Let me get back to the syndicates. So, it was mentioned that we'll be buying land with dust, right? Players will be the ones buying it, and the land will be owned by the players. Right now, we're pooling dust into the syndicate bank. So, here's my question. If I put all my dust into the syndicate bank, does that mean I won't be able to buy land myself? So then I have to buy it on my own.
Right.
So there's really no point in dumping all your dust into the syndicate bank. It's better to keep some for yourself. Yeah, that's
an important point here. Yeah, sorry about that. There's an important point here. There's a chance. Well, actually, this is probably more a question for Oleg, that we might release the pixel dust packs, chests, and the land all around the same time. So basically, there will be an opportunity to get pixel dust. So for those who, let's say, didn't save it for the land. And that's another plus of announcing the land in advance. So when we announce, when we know the exact date for the land, of course, we'll make an announcement, and users will have time, at the very least, to save up for a plot or 2, 3, 5, however many, depending on how their mine is working.
Got it. All right, thank you.
All right, I'll give the floor back to Jin. Jin, go ahead, speak.
Hello, can you hear me? I wanted to ask again about the bounty program. I guess this question is more for Oleg. I saw that in our whale group, someone asked about it. I also brought it up. When will there be any rewards regarding the bounty program? By the way, I think that if we launch this bounty program, a lot of people will start, sharing really hard for just $1 or $2, like for a post or something, and that will help attract even more people, so to speak. Basically, when it goes live, I mean, in general. Jin, honestly, there wasn't that much activity there. I looked through the posts and it was kind of sad, no offense, and I let that slide for a while. I promise I'll get back to it and double check what's going on there now, because I haven't looked in a couple of months. Thank you. I was just thinking, maybe if you really take a look and, well, say, for example, a post, like $1 or something, I don't know, just how much were you planning to give for the bounty program? That could boost people's activity and attract more users. It's kind of a bonus for marketing, something like that.
And I'll get to it and take a look. I promise.
Also, just to clarify for myself what I brought up earlier. As I understand it, our Plan A is about listings. Plan A, the most optimal one, is that we work on our wallet and wait. And we wait for the out season. That's Plan A, the most optimal one, and on SGB, for all these commissions, we launch with the TGE, and these will be additional funds to, let's say, further stimulate the coin. And Plan B, well, it's not as good, but still, if it happens that, Bitcoin doesn't take off, and there won't be any kind of alt season, we just grit our teeth and keep working until, basically, we don't even care anymore where Bitcoin is trading.
We've built a pool. When clan system lands, construction finish, money comes in, cash flow starts.
Mitchell.
I'd like to add my 2 cents here. It's not like, no, Plan A isn't about us just grinding away and then waiting for some kind of alt season, basically. Alt season doesn't affect whether the project will keep developing after that or during it.
Well, it'll be a booster.
Alt season can just directly impact the listing. Well, because of that.
So people buy the coin and you enter the market at the most profitable moment.
In that sense, yes, but for the project's development.
So in theory, we're waiting. Well, Plan A, the best plan, is that we wait for alt season and launch during it. So basically, once again, until alt season comes, we're holding off on the TGE, kind of keeping our horses in check and waiting. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. I wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much.
Oleg, you said you'll be selling land for SGB. Are you going to peg it to the dollar somehow, or how will that work?
It should be similar to how drones are priced, calculated in SGB around 0.5 there. We'll peg and sell at an exchange rate, then had buying in dollars so people can deposit. I have a fever. It's bad. My head's foggy. Let's take a couple more questions, then wrap up. It's getting tough.
Here's a quick question that just came in about the achievement for completed quests. You know, the partner quests we used to do. It's been a while since we've had any partner quests. Are there any plans for them to come back soon, or maybe a bit later, like in a month or 2?
Regarding all these partner activities in general, Right now, the activity level is pretty low, so it's tough at the moment. I think that any kind of activity, meaning partner events, interesting pools, and so on, will develop in line with the market's activity. So, let's put it this way. We've been in this game for a long time, over the years, and we see how it all works. As soon as there's activity, as soon as there's liquidity in the market, everyone immediately starts to come alive, partners, funds, and some investors. So it's not really, well, going back to what Jim was saying about the plan. The plan here is pretty simple. We keep building like we always have, and as for all this liquidity stuff, it can only come with the market. I mean, interesting liquidity, so that all of us, can make money. All those who want to make money.
I see 3 questions. First, Rustam. Turning on your mic, Rustam. Your mic is on. Ask your question.
While Rustam is figuring things out, can I ask a quick question about the burned mustache NFTs? Will they be counted somewhere, like for an achievement or something like that? Because a lot of people crafted mustaches expecting that it would somehow count toward experience as well.
Honestly, I can't give you a definite answer to that question right now, but I'll make a note of it. I need to look into it. So it's either not being counted because it doesn't work or because
It isn't counted. We discussed this. Many NFTs were crafted, and we want them recognized.
Thank you for the question. Hot Gagarin, turn on your microphone, turn on your mic, and go ahead with your question.
Once I turn the mic on, click the mic icon to activate it, then you can ask. Rustam, your question please. Mic on, rustling heard. All right, fine, okay. Andre. Andre, ask your question.
Andre, press the microphone to turn it on.
Yumin Kadarig. Afternoon. Since we discussed achievements, my question is about the distribution of the retro drop. In an AMA, it was said that 10% was set aside for 4 rounds. Could you explain how this retro drop is distributed? Is it correct that these are tokens from the first pool, which are liquid without extra processing through syndicates?
That's correct. Regarding the distribution percentage, our tokenomics specifies the percentage allocated for the retro drop.
They will be distributed after the TGE listing. Yes, so it will be divided over 4 years. So I think it will be distributed in equal parts, and the distribution will be based on rank.
And I have another question. There's a common response in the chats. What do you expect? The project isn't finished yet. We're still in some stage of development. Once that's done, there will be active marketing and people will come. But can I ask a question? How will we know when development is finished and they announce? Now the game is launched, and you all are the early users, so to speak, will we be able to see that turning point? And thanks to what?
Of course.
And what will actually attract new users if the idea with Pixar simply doesn't work out?
Well, I'll try to. I'll try to answer this question briefly. Look, our positioning, it's kind of shifting from the original for a number of reasons, right? That is, some reasons were beyond our control, and some reasons depend on us. But one way or another, we're moving more toward a kind of Web3 gaming ecosystem, where this miner is at the core, which lets you mine cryptocurrency. So we're going to position ourselves and target basically regular gamers, people who may have already heard about Web3 but haven't gotten into it yet, or maybe they've even tried something already. But for that, we need to create a full-fledged group, a specific niche for a certain audience. Yeah, so this audience is clear. Yeah, so I don't know, if we draw some kind of parallel, the first thing that comes to mind is something like Clash of Clans, right? I mean, even though the game is pretty old school, it still has a huge audience, high market turnover, and so on. So that's basically our target. That's it. But right now we can't launch. Well, let me try to answer this in two parts. So the first part is about our target, about our core audience. These are mostly people who are 30 plus for the most part. So that's the main group. Next, probably the question that comes to mind is, so guys, where are you actually going to get the money for this marketing now, right? Here comes the second part of the answer. When you have a clear product, one that's truly ready, with onboarding, a tutorial, a proper economic cycle, deflation mechanisms, and so on, plus an audience that's already playing, finding an investor for marketing becomes much easier. That is, you can do test traffic runs, check retention, and the main metrics you need to make marketing are, investment decisions. So basically, you just drive traffic. So using our own funds that the project will have earned by that time, and also accumulating funds from investors who become interested in our product, basically how it will look when we actively start looking for those investors. So that's basically the second part, how and where we're going to look for that funding. Well, that's if we set aside crypto and all that stuff for now. I mean, if we're talking specifically about a gamer audience.
Yeah, because that's important. The thing is, people start to not understand what's going to happen with the project when it moves into a final stage, and unfortunately, our community is only shrinking when we'd really like it to be growing.
Do you realize which community is actually shrinking here? Let me add a couple of words about the fact that we're in beta testing, just in beta. Some users, including some who are listening right now, think they're really smart, and if the project admins haven't specifically said that you can't mine through a contract or use an auto-clicker, then it must be allowed. And they think they're all so cool and clever, and that they're going to take money out of the project at the expense of the honest users who have been developing here for a long time, investing and believing in us. That's not going to happen. In other words, we absolutely won't allow that to happen. Sorry, guys, I just checked and my temperature is almost 38.5 degrees Celsius, so my head is a bit foggy right now. What was I going to say? Just because we haven't specifically said that something is not allowed somewhere doesn't mean you're allowed to do it. So all abuse points will be stopped. Moreover, I'll tell you that a lot of accounts are already marked as KarmaBot. They don't have a commission on them right now, but they are marked. Today, I was actually analyzing, let's say, the top 50 of our players, and I was, to put it mildly, unpleasantly surprised by some of the users. That's that. As for marketing and development, we definitely know how to handle that. We have a large network, a lot of connections, and we have a certain safety cushion within the project that we know how to use. That's that. And overall, even Pixar itself, when alt season starts, and we do believe it will start, we'll be able to make this token take off. And if, for some reason, the fact that we have a commission gets in the way, fortunately, right now we have the option to remove that commission. So, we can remove this 5% tax and turn the token into a regular one, which would just enter the market like a meme. A lot of people have already told us to remove the tax and they'll help pump it. We've developed a strategy over 2 years whereby using commissions, we'll raise money specifically for marketing. In any case, we're going to try this development method. If it turns out that it doesn't work, we'll remove the commission and go the traditional route for marketing the token. Sorry again, guys, my head is just totally spinning right now. It's really tough.
Our AMA has already been going for almost 2.5 hours. I think, if I'm not mixing up the time, I suggest we wrap it up here. Let's just try to make the break between this AMA and the next one shorter next time. I think we should meet a little more often.
Many questions piled up.
Yeah, if we meet more often, we can keep these from being so long. If no one minds, I suggest we finish out because it's tough for Oleg and Sasha.
Sorry guys, my head is completely fried at this point. That's it. Why did we keep postponing the AMA? We really wanted to make you happy at today's AMA. We planned for you to already have the NFT artifacts from Svistronic and the first part of the airdrop by today's AMA. We did our best so that when we got on the call, you checked your wallets and some of you would see $50, maybe $100 and an artifact in your wallet, and everyone would be happy. We tried to make it a surprise, but sorry, it didn't work out. We tried to do it. Svistronic drags things out a little bit.
I want to thank everyone from Oleg's team, Alexander, and all the guys who just came to listen.
Thank you all for the interesting questions.
Let's meet up more often. I think that's all for today. Thank you all.
Everyone who didn't get a chance to ask their questions, post them in the chat, and at least Mikhail could post answers to them in the chat as text.
Yes, collect your questions. Basically, we're ready to set aside time to answer any questions that have piled up, at least the ones we can answer in writing.
So basically, there's no problem with that.
Wish you all like health.
Thank you so much, guys. Sorry I was a bit out of it today. I did my best.
All right, Oleg, stop the recording, wrap it up. After that, I think we'll manage and upload it.
We'll post the recording on the channel and on YouTube as well. We'll do the English translation later.
Thank you. Goodbye. It's been 2.5 hours, but it felt like just an hour. All right, time to get some rest. Thanks again, guys. Goodbye, everyone.